Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got a combo that one of you guys requested for us to test, and I see no reason why it shouldn't be an absolute hammer. We know what these shells can do. We know what this gun and choke combo can do with a good shell, so putting the two of them together should work out very nicely for us. Although unfortunately, even if it does show us some nasty results, I don't know if we can really get our hands on any more of these particular shells anyway, but we'll have to see what we get. Before the shells we've got, I brought out some more of the Herter's TSS turkey loads. These ones are the 12 gauge, 2 3/4 inch, 1.5 ounce payload of TSS 9s at about 1200 feet per second. We know what these can do. We've tested them through just about anything you can really think of. They're always absolute hammers, and they're a 2 3/4 inch, 20 gauge payload type of shell in a 12 gauge. They're very nice to shoot. These were very nice shells, although it seems like, as of this spring anyway, these have kind of been phased out in favor of the new 3 inch, 1 3/4 ounce payload of these. Those are still phenomenal shells, but I really did like these 2 3/4 versions. I hope they bring them back, but we'll see, I guess. But as for the setup that one of you guys requested for us to run with those shells, I brought out the Mossberg 500. It's got a 28 inch barrel on it, and you wanted to see the Jebs Head Hunter. It's a 665 constriction. This choke has always been a very nice performer with any good quality shell we put through it, so putting these Herter's TSS loads through it, I would imagine that trend continues. I see no reason why we can't get more good results today. It's just, how good are we gonna get is the big question. But as for today's test, we're running everything the same as usual. So I've got the turkey target set up at 40 yards and the chrono to get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of that target, and we'll see what the 2 3/4 inch Herter's TSS loads can actually do through the 500 with the 665 Jebs. I think we're in for a nasty pattern, but let's take our shot and see just how good it really is. All right, so that shell gave us 1283 through the chrono. We have a boss claim of 1200, but this is not at all unusual for these shells. Typically, all of the Herter shells run a little quicker than boss claim. At least their TSS lineup does anyway. So very much the usual for these shells, and that's plenty enough velocity. But how good is our pattern down there at 40? Let's go check it out and see. Okay, so here we are down at our 40-yard paper, and we see what looks like a pretty nice hunting spread here. Right off the bat, yes, we absolutely do have a dead bird. No surprise there. There are a ton of them up through the head and neck area there that would have done the job. Know where that bird can move to and get through that pattern. It's a nice even spread of them across there as well. No major voids or anything to deal with. What's interesting though is that this isn't a really tight screamer of a pattern. Typically, those Herter's 2 3/4 inch shells, anything that's 665 or tighter, usually gives us a pretty nasty looking core area. This might be a little closer to the ballpark of about the perfect hunting spread. It's tight, it's even, but it's not an absolute baseball of a core down here either. So I really like that. I think when we pull this target down here in a second, we're going to see a nice even coverage throughout the 10 and 20 inch rings. That's going to give us just a nice, solid, very likable, very usable hunting spread. So as for our core, I mean, it's a nice even area of pellets. Nothing I'm concerned with there. Nice coverage across all the turkey target. Gives you a little bit of leeway to work with on either side of that 12-inch wide paper. It's a pretty circular spread as well for the most part. Outside of that, we may pick up a little bit of straggly stuff up here towards the top. Maybe a little bit over there off the left. Maybe a couple at the bottom and to the right over here, but it's nothing overly egregious necessarily. None of that is really uncommon with these shells either, to get a few tiny little strings or flyers around the edges. We typically do see that in just about any choke we run them in. So this is just a nice pattern. It's definitely not the tightest pattern we've seen out of these shells, for sure, but I would not hesitate to run that. And really, I kind of prefer a pattern that looks like that. I love to see those screaming hot cores, don't get me wrong, but when it comes down to my actual turkey hunting preferences, I like my pattern to look like this, where it's still got very nice coverage at 40 yards. I can push it a little farther if I need to for one reason or another. That pattern is clearly good to 45 and probably 50 yards as well without much of an issue, but it might not be a golf ball at 20 yards like some other combos will be. So I really like how that performed just with the turkey target up. But let's pull the target down. We'll draw some circles, count some pellets, and really get a good idea on how this actually did. All right, now turkey target is down and out of the way, and yep, we can see we have a pretty nice even spread to work with here. For some people, that might be pretty close to their ideal turkey hunting spread. It's not too tight, although you still have a ton of pellets to work with through the core, but it remains even throughout the entire thing, while also not being just blown all over the place either. That's just a really nice hunting spread in my opinion. So we have a 10 and 20 inch circle drawn here within our 10-inch core, beautifully even coverage with 233 pellets to work with. There's no turkey that's ever going to make it through that core, no question about it. Outside of that, with our 20-inch leeway ring, we fill it in pretty nicely with an additional 236 pellets. Might be a little bit thinner up here towards the top, maybe just a little bit, but that's starting to get to the outer edges of our pattern anyway, and maybe down at the very bottom down there just a little bit as well, but same story. We do still see those few little stringy splotchy bits around the edges. I wouldn't mind to see maybe a few of those cleaned up and brought in just a touch, but ultimately it's still not a bad pattern by any means. Those aren't a detriment to how this performed, I wouldn't say. So definitely not an absolute screamer of a pattern. We have seen much tighter from these shells for sure, but I really like how that performed. It's a pretty nice, even, uniform spread of pellets. It's going to hammer turkeys at 40 yards all day long. You can push it to 45 and 50 yards and still do the job, but it might give you that tiny little bit more breathing room at a little closer range as well. So it's just a nice, pretty well-rounded pattern overall. If we had to pick at it, clean up those edges just a tiny little bit, and we'd have a really, really impressive performer on our hands as far as just a beautifully even spread goes. So no surprise here to see yet another good pattern out of these Herter's loads. Definitely not the tightest, but doesn't have to be the tightest to be the best turkey pattern either. There's an awful lot of people that would not hesitate to run that performance right there as their regular everyday turkey combination, and I definitely wouldn't hesitate to run it either. So nice, very huntable pattern today. And here's the wad out of those shells. Pretty typical Herter's orange equipment here. If you don't know, the Herter's loads are made by Winchester. So this is a pretty similar wad to something like the Winchester Longbeard XR, but it is a good little bit stiffer for it to be able to hold up to the TSS as well. Styrofoam piece is still in the base. No major damage, nothing stuck in there. Looks perfectly fine overall today. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about that result right there? I personally think we're starting to knock on the door of about the perfect, well-rounded turkey hunting pattern. It's tight, but it's not overly tight. You've got a good core to work with. You've got nice, even leeway to work with. No major voids, no egregious flyers, although maybe we can clean up those edges just a tiny little bit. It's just a nice, well-rounded turkey hunting combination. It's definitely not the tightest, most condensed pattern we've seen from these shells. It's definitely not the nastiest pattern we've gotten from that Jebs choke either, but it's still a perfectly adequate combination. I would run it any day. You handed me that, I wouldn't hesitate to take 40-yard shots with it, no doubt about it. I think for a lot of people, that's pretty close to what they're looking for. Some people are going to like those absolute giant shells that are super expensive, have a massive payload, and get those absolute softball cores at 40 yards with them, and they can push them to 50, 60 yards or more. And nothing wrong with that at all. But for the general turkey hunting population, most birds are shot 25, 30 yards or so, and that right there is more than capable of doing it perfectly fine. I really hope they didn't permanently get rid of the 2 3/4 inch Herter shells. It's fine if they wanted to bring out 3-inch versions. Those are great shells as well, but I just really like what these 2 3/4 inch shells do. They can get those nasty screaming patterns, but you can also back it off a little bit and get these type of patterns out of them as well. So ultimately, I really like where we're at with this pattern today. Not a whole lot of complaining we can do about it, that's for sure. Especially not for a 2 3/4 inch load. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Herter's TSS loads? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Is this a pattern or a combo you would hunt with? Or would you just stick to lead in a 12 gauge? Or if you wanted to run TSS, are you the guy that wants to run the giant 3.5 inch shells that are $20 a round type of loadings and push them to 50, 60 plus yards? Or is that about exactly the kind of performance you're looking for and like to see? And maybe what other combos do you want to see us run with either those shells or put through that 500 with that Jebs choke? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.